understanding the technology that powers the money is essential. Knowing the business drivers that inspire how the money is made is crucial. Bridging the gap between the mind of the technologist and the mind of the business is monumental. That is what TBF is all about. Let's start this never-ending conversation. It's time.
Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Tech Behind FinTech. I am happy. Today, I have my returning guest, Hoda Mehr. We're going to have a really great conversation on my first 90 days as a new CEO, challenges and opportunities. First, this is the first time we're doing something like this, so I like this topic and I want to drill down. Hoda, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Always. Before we jump into the show, let's just do some housekeeping. We are streaming live from Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch. We also have a separate feed going from Instagram. So if you see me look that way, I'm talking to my Instagram folks. They're not connected to our platform like the other tools are. If you have questions, comments, insights, comment on it, and we'll make you part of this show. If you're on Instagram, you can't do that. You can go live to the techbehindfintech.com, and you can also be a part of the show where you click on one of our live links there to add your comments. On that note, now that the housekeeping is out of the way, we are going to jump into the main topic of the day. Hoda's my first 90 days of CEO. I love it. You're the new CEO of Products That Count. Before I do that, I need to introduce you formally. Even though you're a returning guest of the show, there may be some people who have not seen you. So let me do justice by you and read your bio, and then we're going to get into it. Hoda Mehr is the CEO of Products That Count, a Silicon Valley-based nonprofit with the mission to help everyone build great products with a growing community of 500,000 plus product managers and leaders. She joined the company to grow and shape its next chapter by enabling Fortune 1000 companies to turn their product teams into a long-lasting competitive advantage through a full suite of upskilling and training programs. Hoda is also the founder of StockCard, an award-winning fintech platform that removes noise from fundamental investment research for individual investors with over 80,000 members. Before her founder experience, she worked on bringing several multi-million software products to market across multiple big tech companies. Hoda has lived and worked in several countries and cultures, including the Middle East, Canada, and the U.S. She's an economist, has an MBA from the John Molson School of Business, and lives in Southern California. I heard it never rains in Southern California. Is that true, Hoda?
No, that's not true. It actually rains. It always used to rain a lot, and then there was a few years that winters wouldn't get any rain, and then that was the whole drought in California period of time. And then past 2 years, we've been very lucky to have rain back, and it gets good cold. Doesn't snow, but it rains for multiple days in a row, which is good. No more drought, hopefully, and lush green, greeneries are back, basically.
That's awesome. So look, let's jump into it, right? Can you describe your initial feelings of being appointed the new CEO of Products That Count?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting place to be because you're getting into an organization that's already done a lot of good work. There's an existing team, there's existing processes. It's very different from starting a company, being a founder, which was my previous almost a decade. You're shaping everything from scratch. Here, you're coming in as a new CEO into an existing organization, and there's a lot of existing processes, resources, team, talent, goals, and also challenges that already exist that you need to figure out. So it's a very different mindset and different set of challenges, also opportunities that comes with it. Very different from starting a company. But I actually really enjoyed it. I'm almost entering into my third month. So it's almost at the end of the 90 days. So very fresh in my mind in terms of how the 30, 60, 90 day sort of planning and process goes. And how is it different from, starting a company or even like working in a big company? Very different experience.
And it's interesting you bring that up because I really want to get into that in terms of the founder startup versus coming into an existing company. Before we do, can you tell us a little bit about Products That Count?
Yeah. So Products That Count, as you said, it's a nonprofit organization with the mission to help everybody build great products. It's founded by esteemed, who is the founder and now chairwoman of our board. And she's the general partner at Mighty Capital, which is the Silicon Valley-based Series A plus venture fund, a very successful fund. And the Products That Count is built based on this idea and mission that product and good product and great product management team and great product leaders can be the true competitive advantage of any company. And especially it's true for startups because most of the startups are product-led organizations by nature. They're building a specific product to solve a specific problems. But in big organizations, even in Fortune 1000 companies, or even like bigger or big organizations, Fortune 5000, Fortune 3000, you name it, they are not necessarily traditionally product-led organizations, but there is this movement towards becoming more product-led organizations. And Products That Count, the mission is to help these organizations to really accelerate that transition to be product-led and use their products to be able to create a competitive advantage. And the way we do it is through providing training, up-leveling, upskilling, training program across all layers of the organization. And then at the same time, celebrating the success of great products, great product managers, and great product leaders through a programming, through a series of basically awards and programs that we run for everyone in this space. It's been around for a few years, and it's been growing rapidly. We have more than 500,000 product leaders, product managers in our community. Free programming, really high quality free programming developed by product leaders for product leaders, like a podcast show, blog, newsletter, lots of research every year, and lots of roundtables and events in person or virtual to help everybody sort of up level their skills and their product management skills in general.
I mean, that's interesting. I mean, it's not on the topic of the show, but when you start talking about product-led companies, and it's always interesting where you see the major software companies now. They started from a product. I mean, like everyone uses Google, right? That was literally a product that turned into the mega corporation that they are now. So so that's really interesting. And in hearing you talk about it, you start seeing the power and the importance of like product itself. It's interesting because been in the field for since like late 90s, and I feel like the whole conversation around product is more of a recent development, like the focus on it over the last 10 years, I would say. Early on, it was like we had project managers, and you would say, okay, we're managing these projects, but the focus and that field on product, I started to hear more about it around 2009-ish, 10. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, you're spot on. And actually, I've had a conversation recently with a guest on our Products That Count show. CPO of Okta on their customer identity side was my guest in a show just last week. I guess the show is up today for everyone to watch it. And we had this conversation exactly. He was saying when he started 2 decades ago or so, there was no product management as a function. It didn't exist. And in his mind, he was an engineer, and he was just like building products based on his engineering skills and what he had the knowledge. And then he realized over the course of his career to become now a CPO, a chief product officer of a very large publicly traded company in the security space. And he was just talking about the same transitions, like they didn't exist. And gradually because of to some extent because of the success of these like large product-based companies like Google and Facebook and many other ones. The function of product management become a product management. And actually, Products That Count does this annual every year. Does there's 2 times a year we do this very extensive research around the state of product management industry, the state of product management leadership. And what we learned is what we call the rise of CPOs to the C-suite. So to your point, maybe 2 decades ago, there was no chief product officer that sits at the C-suite of big organizations. But now we see more than 30% of the companies actually have their CPOs sitting in the C-suite and participate in obviously high-level business discussions. And then we see more and more that CPOs are the ones who are owning P&L, driving impact and driving business impact and business results for the organization. Even some technology decisions are being sort of woven into the product management function. So it's almost like for product management, it almost feels like it's the beginning of just its growth as a sector or as an industry or as a discipline. Although, if you live in Silicon Valley or if you're in the startup world, you feel like it's all about product, right? But if you expand and kind of zoom out and then look at all the big organizations, the ones who have thousands and thousands of employees, necessarily that's not true. They're not all, the product management function is not the same as what it is in Silicon Valley or in startups. So yes, definitely there is this moment for product management. We see the rise of the function across many industries and very big companies and organizations.
I remember, when I started, I started more in like the big bank, right? I was more in the big investment banks and stuff like that. And it wasn't a product manager. The model was more so the project manager was closely aligned to the business. And based on your background and from an economist standpoint, you saw the same model. And that's almost like that project manager, they really, really understood the product. They were meeting with the business constantly, trying to get those requirements and really nail it right so that the trader or whoever can have our software performing the way he needs or he or she needs it to happen in order to get the results that they need. And that was the model that I found. And it was just like we talked about, a decade later, you started seeing the shift where that product manager started to become more of a title in a certain field. Question I have for you now is when you start looking at the project manager and that same model that I just gave that example, when you have the in banking, for instance, how they're not necessarily the business, but they have to have an understanding of what the business needs. But how does that relationship work usually?
Well, I think it's just now in the previous model, we had the business who's making decision in terms of what to build. And then we would pass it on to engineering and then say, you build it. And then there's this, to your point, there's this project management function who is the glue between these two sides and making sure it's delivered as per the requirement. But that model now, these were different, distinct functions. That doesn't exist anymore. So business is product. And that's why we talk about product-led organizations. There's no separate business decision-making happening. And then so you would hand it off to engineering, and then the project managers lead the development, the actual delivery of it. Now, almost product management owns all of these pieces together. And when we say, there's business goals that is identified by the overall direction of the company. And then those business goals come through fruition through the product management function. So the product management say, okay, if this is our goal, this is what we want to do, this is the problems we're trying to solve, this is how much we want to grow. How do we deliver that? Through the development of the products and different product features, or enhancing existing product features and things like that. And then project management, in a way, is one part of product management, right? So product management, it's a full suite of starting from understanding what's needed to be done, just what customers want, or what problems we're trying to solve, depending on if it's B2C or B2B. That part is different, but it's defining the what And then defining the how is in connection with engineering and design. And then once the what and how and when is with finance, kind of figuring out when it needs to be done and what's the cost and all that good stuff. And then the actual delivery happens. And there's a still project management or operations, product operations people who work to make sure the product is delivered as per the plans, and it's very close relationship with the engineering. But all of this, from A to Z of it, it's under the product management function. So project management is a one of the subsets of product management, and it's now in most product-led organizations not a separate function. It's all integrated, and it keeps one person or one team or one leader accountable against this full suite. So that's why there's advantages to it, because you don't have multiple people delivering different pieces. You have one function, one leader, and the entire team who's accountable against delivery of what's going to happen and what needs to be happening for the organization to be able to achieve its goals.
No, I mean, thanks for that. And I know, we brought up, because of the company, obviously, persistent counsel it's relevant to the conversation. I know I want to go back into the first 90 days. But thanks for that, because I was really curious as you were talking about it. One of the things I want to ask you is that difference, right? From being the founder, CEO of an organization versus coming into an existing organization. Can we unpack that in terms of, and you're the perfect person to do so, because, you've been on the show so long. I've interviewed you on both scenarios. So I want to understand like your feelings towards that, like the differences, the nuances, pros, cons, things of that nature.
Yes. So when you are a founder, you have a lot more autonomy around what you would want the organization to be like. And you almost have a clean canvas to be able to define who you want to hire and what kind of talent you want to bring in on the starting point, right? And then you're sort of in that building mode that's why they call it 0 to 1, because literally there is zero thing available to use, and you have to go and find it. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to like bring your total dream into reality as you build it, because there's budget constraint, there's like money constraint, there's access to talent, there's so many variables. But you have that white canvas that you could blank canvas, I would say, that you would be able to build and paint whatever picture you want, and then you will figure out if you can bring that picture to actual reality. So there's a lot more uncertainty as well that comes with it, because it's when there is no rules and no boundaries and it's a blank canvas, there is a lot more uncertainty involved. So it's not all to say, oh, when you're a founder, it's like fantastic because you can do whatever you want to do. But in reality, you can't. When there's unlimited choices and it's like a blank thing, you actually have a lot more uncertainty to deal with. When you're entering into an organization, existing organization as a new CEO, it's not that blank canvas. It's actually going in and understanding what already exists. There's already a picture in place, basically. There's already systems, resources, culture, goal, talent, budget exist, and an organization that has its complexities by itself. So there's no blank canvas. It's almost like when you enter in, it's a puzzle. You don't know what's happening, or it's a maze, and then you have to navigate through this maze to really figure out what's happening and get a good picture of what's going on. And then you will gradually, maybe after the 60 days or 90 days, you start forming kind of like going back to that blank canvas feeling of a startup, because once you understand what's happening and once you build relationship with existing team and understand the goals, and so it should be a very collaborative process, then you kind of get that blank canvas moment, but in a lot better way, because you have existing team, existing resources, existing budget to support you to paint that blank canvas together. So it's an interesting, different feeling, but I feel like the main difference is like that uncertainty exists, that blank canvas uncertainty exists as a founder, but in an existing organization, it's more the thrill of discovering this maze and going through this maze is unknown to you, and then kind of like getting to know it and understand it, and then you get to that blank canvas right after that phase of discovery.
A lot of in situations like this, when you have a new CEO coming into an existing organization, you hear the words culture a lot, like because obviously from your analogy, with the blank canvas and you're the founder, you are basically creating. This is the culture. This is you're creating all of it. Right? You're setting something precedents. You're doing that. When you come down to an existing organization, there's a culture that exists. You may have your own ideas for a culture that you want to implement. How does that process work?
Yeah, it's an interesting situation because you have to be very mindful about that. You can't just bring your own culture and expect that to be done. It almost needs to be, you would think about what elements of the culture that it already exists. What is it like? What is the existing culture, and what elements of it is actually helping the organization grow and protect that? It's very natural. It's a human nature to come into any situation, and then you want to fall back to what's comfortable to you, and you want to change everything to feel comfortable and familiar to you. But then that's unfair to the existing organization first. Also, you will get a lot of resistance because people also who are in the organization, they want to be comfortable in what they're comfortable with. So they don't want, everybody resists change. As a CEO, you want to feel, oh, it's very familiar. I know this is my thing. And the existing team also, they have their own thing. So they want to protect their own ways of doing things. So there's this cultural resistance on both sides. And I think it's the onus is on the CEO who's coming in to not want to change everything and break and disrupt people's ways of working and processes, and the basically culture, the interactions between team. Actually understand what it is, understand the advantages of it, and then maybe understand some of the shortcomings of it, and then protect what are the things that exist that are good and helpful to the team and to the growth of the company, and then maybe start putting a plan in place for some of the things that could be enhanced so that the organization could move. And actually, I have to say, the new CEO has this unique advantage of being an outsider, so you don't necessarily have any emotional attachment or any necessarily attachment to existing processes. So you could look at it with this unbiased eye and then really see the true picture and kind of figure out what are the things that are good and what are the things that could be enhanced, that maybe someone who's been there for a while doesn't have that outsider advantage. So I'd say two things that I aspired to do, and I obviously worked with our board chair, SC. We had lots of conversations about this as I was coming in around how to make sure I don't come in and change everything, and how do I protect what's good, and how do I gradually have a plan for things that could be improved and enhanced, and then create this plan that is collaborative with the existing team so they understand why if we're making any changes. So it's that's being conscious of change for the sake of change is not good. Protect what's good in there, understand it and protect what's good already exists, and then have a plan for enhancing it after a while.
And you said a couple of things I want to touch base on and just emphasize. You use the word protect a lot, like protect what's good, right? So in order to protect what's good, you have to first identify what's good and what's working. And what is the strategy to doing that in terms of identifying? It's like some people, been in situations with in organizations, and they have a new CEO, so he would want to do one-on-ones with as many people as he can, right? From whole 360 one-on-ones. What are some of the ways to identify things that are going good?
Yeah, I think the one-on-ones is important because you get that sort of knowledge from insiders to what's happening, and then you can ask very interesting questions, all in the name of, because you don't know and you truly don't know, and people are open and share their thoughts and ideas in response to, if you ask good questions. Basically what I'm trying to say is in one-on-ones you could get a lot of insights from the team. But to me that's one portion of it. The other portion of it is just going back to what are the goals and objectives of the organization, and is what exists in the organization in terms of processes, in terms of the way things being done, in terms of roadmap of activities and products and features and everything else. Are they enabling the organization to achieve those goals? And a lot of times you find that not everything that is happening in the organization is in full alignment with those goals that the organization has set for itself. So there's these two pieces: using your outsider in advantage to talk to people and understand what's going on, and then also you use your own analytical thinking to look at what are the goals and whether the things that exist are supporting and enabling those goals, and then are there gaps in that? Because the culture in the company and the roadmap of the features and products and activities and everything else, the processes, the tools, all that good stuff needs to be in support of those goals. And there's no guarantee that that's already happening. So as a new CEO, you're just trying to find whether that connection exists between goals and the culture and existing processes and roadmap. And then 100% there are, I am 100% sure, and I saw that in this 90-day experience at Products That Count, that there are things that are really superpowers of every organization that are in alignment with the goal, and then you want to protect them. So you just need to investigate. It's almost like an investigative 3 months of investigation into goals versus what exists and how they're aligned together.
And so you're coming in as an outsider, right? You're trying to find, okay, here are the goals, here are the disconnects. When you're doing that in analytical work, is that done with a group of trusted of individuals there? Is that a solo mission? How does that work?
No, it has to be done in alignment with some of the existing leaders. So in my case, obviously a lot of that was done with our board of directors and our chairwoman, SE, because they're the one who already, their mission is also to protect the organization and grow the organization and make sure the organization is growing and achieving its goals and its objectives. So it can't be a solo analysis at all. It has to be through basically having multiple conversations around the goals, but you have to do your homework as the new CEO and come in with some sort of analysis, look at it, and then maybe almost like propose this. This is my understanding. This is my understanding of the goals. This is my understanding of the things that needs to happen for it to come through. And this is my understanding of what exists in the organization. And then you would allow your advisors, who is the chairman of the board or board members or other leaders, like top leaders in the organization, to help you refine your understanding into an actual picture of the reality. Sometimes, obviously, the understandings are not right because you don't have the full picture. You didn't have enough conversation or enough time to observe all the nuances of it. So it's definitely not a solo, but the piece you have to do is you have to do your own homework, shape some hypotheses based on what you learn, and then collaborate with the leaders and your board to be able to refine it into reality.
So it's a lot of, so the team, kind of the core team that you're relying on. Once you have an understanding, you're reiterating, this is what I understand. Is it accurate? Is your board and your top leaders of your organizations to really get that clarity? Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's about it.
Another thing, right, I want to ask, can you describe, and and take it so wherever you feel comfortable, because I know there's certain internal information you can't share, but some of the 30-day goals you have, 60-day and 90. I know sometimes it ranges, to understand that, and then afterwards, I want to understand, do you have a certain time period where there are no changes? Like, I don't want to change anything, I just want to observe. Is that within the 30, 60, 90? Can you break that down, please?
Yeah. So in our case specifically, we had, before even I joined in, I had, working with our board chair, there was this conversation around what the 30, 60, 90 days should look like. What's the objective of it? And what are we trying to achieve in those 30, 60, 90 days? And what are the things we don't want to do in those 30, 60, 90 days? It's almost as important knowing what are things you want to do What are the things it's almost as important to know what are the things you don't want to do, the same as what are the things you want to do in that 30, 60, 90 days. So coming in, we had some plans, and then we almost implemented the same plan as we went through those time period. In the high level sort of shape of the plan was that in the first 30 days, really no change. We don't want to change anything. It's really about learning and kind of like observing and listening. And it's tough to just learn and observe, especially for someone like me who comes from a founder background, and I'm a very hands-on person as well, and a very hands-on founder, and kind of used to like do lots of things by myself, because that's being a founder. You have to do a lot of things. So that first 30 days of like your goal is not to change anything, or not to make any major decision or make any decision. It's all about observing, speaking, understanding the goals of the organization, people, culture, what's happening, how things are being done, and sort of in that 30 days, first 30 days. And the biggest challenge is like really not doing anything and just keep observing, keep writing, keep documenting, and keep like having conversations that your observations are correct. And then in the 60 days, it's the continuation of observing, but it's a little bit more active observation. It's where you start forming opinions around what are the things that are working and what are the things that are not working. It's almost at the end of that 60 days, you kind of come up with a plan around things that you want to protect and things that you would want to improve or enhance. But you're still not really making a lot of changes. You're just forming that opinion and forming that and socializing that plan and getting feedback from people around the organization. So it's that plan, and that's creating a more realistic plan for the organization. And then in the 90 days is where you're actually start putting the foundation in place around having conversation around what are the things we want to do, and what are the things we want to stop doing or change doing. So you gradually get to that. Obviously, still, you don't want to do any major changes, but 90 days, then last 30 days of this period is the time you start implementing some of that key elements of your plan. And I say one good example for us was we, as an organization, one thing that we planned together to do a lot more of it, and we already put it in place, and it's now kind of like it's getting operationalized towards the end of the 90 days, is that more data-driven decision making. And the products account was already a very data-driven organization when I came in. There's a lot of KPIs, there's a lot of measuring things, which was great. And then the piece I added to it is that more embedding that data and insights into our decision making on a more regular basis. So maybe in the past it was more around having goals and setting up the goals and then implement them, or every 6 months to look at the KPIs and see whether they're on track. But basically, I with the team, we realized we could do that a lot more faster, and almost like do it every week, every day, to make sure we're tracking, we're growing against the KPI we understood, we have all agreed. And I feel that organization is liking it. Like the team enjoys having more data into the day-to-day decision making, and we're moving towards that more frequent and more a data-driven sort of improvement of our processes and our decisions every day.
No, I mean that's good, and I want to just like summarize some of the key points here for the audience, and correct me, if it's out of whack. But the first 30 days, I'm strictly observing, looking and trying to understand the current process. The next 30 days, which is the 60 days, use the word not observing, but active observing. So now it's like I'm formulating some of my opinions, and this is what, not only formulating it in my head, but I'm also having meetings and saying, guys, this is what I think. This is where I think we should go. This is what I observe. These are some of the things I think we should improve on. What are your thoughts? So you're getting that feedback now. And in the next 90 days, once you have that vision, it's like, okay, here's an action plan of putting it in place. going over what resources or who do we need to implement this plan and getting it laid out, communicating it with your top leaders and your board. And then after that, let's see, we're not making a whole massive change at once. Let's see if there's something that we can take. If you start looking at it from like an agile process, one thing that we can start implementing towards that. But now you have your roadmap per se. I would assume at the end of that 90 days, it's like a roadmap. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
All right, cool. So I like to do those recaps. I want people to understand this is awesome stuff. What are some of the challenges? What are some of your challenges been in this first 90 days?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about it. The big challenge at the beginning is just not doing things because you're observing and you don't want to bring your own sort of like comfort zone, or you don't want to bring your even biases into this new organization without understanding it first. And I found it very difficult in some things, some places that I have very strong opinions about things, to just like not share those opinions yet, or like share them, but like not trying to influence, but like keep it at a conversation level and keep it as like collecting feedback and gathering information. So I think that's one challenge. And then the other challenge is that, yes, we talk about all these things around, yes, 30 days is about observing, 60 days is about forming a plan, and then maybe 90 days is around some of those implementations in place, but you're still running the organization. Like the organization still needs to do its day to day, right? And then it is very possible that in, even your second day, third day, fourth day, first week, there's fire to be taken care of. There's things that happen. Someone coming in, someone leaving the organization. That it's still like it's not that the life is going to stop because you were in your first 30, 60, 90 days of the organization. It's still things are going on and people have challenges and they need support. So balancing this, being in the mood of listening and trying to like step back and make sure you use your advantage as an outsider in the organization, but also still make sure the organization is moving, because at the end of the day, you are accountable for from day one. You are accountable for making sure the organization still is delivering what it needs to deliver, and things are being done, and you have partners and employees and customers and team members and community members that all have expectations, and they don't necessarily care that you're here only for 2 days, right? Because they just want things to get done. So that balance of observing and being sort of a stepping back versus making sure everything is going on, that's also not easy. It is challenging, and it takes time and effort to be able to do that. And then the third challenge is just it's change, and all humans are resistant to change. So you as a person, you're also probably using in different format, even from like meeting times. Maybe before you had this like regular schedule of like I would meet from this time and to other time. Now you have teams in different time zones. You need to adjust your schedule. As easy as like trivial as that. These are changing your personal routines, the way you do things, all the way to obviously a lot more serious stuff. There's new people you have to meet. You have to build a relationship. You have to build trust with all these new people. They don't know who you are. They don't know whether they have to trust you. They want to trust you or not. They want to collaborate with you or not. So it's a lot of like active relationship building and focusing on avoiding like changing your ways of doing things to make sure you'll be successful in this like new setting and new environment.
So like a few questions I have on that, different things you brought up. Find it funny with challenge number one in terms of the biggest challenge is just not doing anything. It's like, that's like a huge challenge. It's an interesting challenge. But I totally get it. Challenge number two, though, I wanna kind of break that down, right? So you're in a situation now where the first 30 days you are observing, but to your point, there are day-to-day business activities that you are accountable for now. So how does that work? Like you have to make certain decisions. People are asking you questions. So like, this is what we have to do. You're in conflict resolution mode because one person is saying this, another person is saying, no, I want to do that. They're looking at you to mediate. How does that work? Like hands off, but you have to be hands on for day-to-day activities. How does that process work?
Yeah, I mean, in my case, I try to rely heavily on people already existing in the organization, and kind of, if there's a challenge comes up, like asking, how is it already being handled? What was the last example of a case like this? How did you guys go about handling it? Is there an existing process to addressing this challenge? One specific example of it that came up was related a team member leaving. And then it was more around, okay, so what is the process when somebody is like leaving? How do we make sure nothing is dropped, everything is handled, processed properly, the members and the sponsors and the partners don't feel any disruption in the operation? And then when we're still a very small organization by count of team members, we're about 9, and 9 in the core team. So it's around, even if one person leave, a whole area of responsibilities are suddenly in the air for grab, or somebody needs to take on. So a lot of it is around relying on the existing team and understanding what was the process that exists in the meantime, in the past. And then if there's no processes or there are things that are new that hasn't been handled in the past, again, I talk, having conversation with them about, okay, how do we solve this? But, at the end of the day, you kind of have to gather all this information, and then you make a judgment around, okay, I've done enough of gathering information. I've done enough of asking. So we need to move. We need to make a decision. So you have to also be recognizing that you need to make a decision, and it can't be like consensus at all time, because there's an immediate thing to need to be handled. So as much as possible, try to understand what's happening, what's already been done in the past, following that, and then at some point draw a line and make a decision and move forward for those immediate sort of like quote unquote fires in the organization.
Want to get into trust, right? Because that's a huge thing. We did previous shows on trust and culture. Before we get into that, we have to take a brief moment from our sponsors, and then we're going to circle back, and I want to dive into trust.
Sure.
Time for our sponsor break.
Are you an emerging fintech with a limited budget seeking more sales and partners? Introducing Strategic Generation, your partner in leveraging cybersecurity for sales and partner enablement. Fintechs often lose opportunities due to unsophisticated cybersecurity programs. That's where we come in. Strategic Generation assists with due diligence, security posture visibility, penetration testing, and on-demand virtual CISO services. We connect your systems to our partnered platform, and voila! Instant access to real-time diagnostics and compliance frameworks such as SOC 2 and PCI DSS. Gain the confidence of prospects and partners. Strengthen your cybersecurity program and drive success. Stop losing deals due to cybersecurity. Visit strategicgeneration.com and click on On-Demand CISO to connect with an expert.
We are back. So I want to get into that, because that's such a huge thing. I mean, any relationship, trust is one of the key foundational components to it. Coming into an organization, people don't know you. They have jobs that they rely on. They have ways that they were doing stuff. They had probably a relationship with the previous leader. And now you're asking them to basically trust me with your career, trust me with your goals, dreams, and aspirations in this particular field. Trust me that I'm going to manage this company effectively and take us to the next level. And, they don't know you, right? How do you build that trust?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just making friends, sort of going back to the oldest playbook in human interaction. It's basically become friends. And obviously, I don't mean by that like become best buddies and go drinking all together or things like that. I really don't mean that, but really about getting to know the person, getting to know each person at a personal level. What they like, what they don't like, what's their family like, what's their situation, they have kids, what's on top of their mind. Just like being a human first and understanding people and kind of becoming friends. In sales, there is this quote, or there's this model of like, make friends and sell to your friends, as opposed to try to sell to strangers. So make friends and sell to your friends is a lot more easier. It takes a little bit longer, obviously, because you have to first make friends and then you will sell to your friends. But it makes your life a lot more easier, and the sales to be a lot more effective and more long lasting in terms of like the relationship, like a sales relationship, the partnership. So same applies in my point of view to your team. So make friends and then build great companies with your friends type thing. And then it's very possible in like a 9-person team. Yeah, if it was like a 900-person team, that would be probably different, or 9,000 team. It's like a different scale. So you can be friends with 9,000 people, but at least you could still try to care about people at individual level, about their aspirations, trying to understand that. Listening skill is really important as well. Like a lot of time they say, you go into a meeting and then if you let people to talk about themselves, by the end of it, they feel they already know you, although they talked about themselves for the entire moment of the meeting. But it's just an exaggerated way of saying that. Be there for people and listen and understand their context and understand their aspirations. Let's understand what matters to them. That's number one. That results into trust, naturally and organically. And then the second one is a competence. If you are competent in your skills, you basically show that competence, and you're not necessarily arrogant, but you're basically, whatever you're good at, don't be shy at not showing that. Use your skills, use your talent, use your whatever that is your superpower, in order to help the organization move forward and help them get better at what they're doing. And when people see that you're bringing something to the table and you're helping them do their work done or achieve the goals, or even if it's about like providing feedback, but like doing it with confidence, doing it based on logic and sort of like competence in managing people, all those things help build trust. And then positive attitude, just being, even if something is challenging, if it's difficult, be positive about it, communicate as much as you can so that people understand why you're doing things. So those are a few things I think: making friends, using your superpower, and you bring your competency, or like what you're competent, use what you are competent in to your advantage. And then basically the third piece is have a positive mindset and attitude and communicate with people. Those help you build trust much faster.
I absolutely love that. I love that quote. I posted it so people can see it while you said it. Make friends and sell to your friends. That is going to be, I think, my weekend and my new mantra. I absolutely love that quote because, I think when we think about sales, we constantly think about, okay, some guy or some person trying to move product or move services. But you break down the essence of selling, right? It's everything. You're selling ideas. You're selling, hey, I'm new to this organization. I'm selling myself. I'm selling that. I'm selling trust. I'm selling, can you trust me? It's like, so everything is sales in a sense, because you need to get, and that's what they say, that word buying, right? Buying is not also like buying your product. It's buying into your ideas, buying into, I trust this person to take us to the next level. So it's a form of sales. So, when you said make friends and sell to your friends, that just resonated with me differently. I absolutely love it.
And I don't take claim for that. I'm sure I learned it somewhere. It's not my code. And it's a very, like, it applies in a lot of, like, in the startup world, they say people invest in people, not in products. So like that's why you have to build relationship and trust and friendship with investors, because investors invest in people, not the product. And you buy from people, not not the ideas and things like that. So it is obviously, despite everything that is happening in technology and information, at the end of the day, we're still making human interactions and humans are making decisions, but until the time that AIs are making all the decisions in the world, so we're still not there yet. But until humans are the decision makers, you still need to be mindful of building rapport and being friendly and building relationship and trust so that you can move faster.
If there was ever a perfect way to end the show, and we're coming towards our ending mark right now, I think it's that. I think it's just it's a really good jewel that I think people can leave with. I personally, I'm leaving with that, and I love it. Absolutely love it. What we've been doing for our guests, I don't know if since you've been on, you had a chance, but we're giving you the platform so you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Obviously, I would assume it's going to be your company and how people can find you. So we're doing that at the closeout of our show. So I'm going to give you the platform so you can talk.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. And like we talked about in the past 40 minutes, Products That Count is a community for product leaders and product managers to help elevate everyone's career to C-suite and elevate and shine lights on great products, great product leaders, and great product managers. So if you are a product manager, product leader, please join the community, Products That Count, and help shape and drive the conversation around product. And you can find us on productsthatcount.com and on our podcast called Product Talk. And I'd love to hear from you. And I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, Hoda Mehr, both. So reach out to me if you want to talk about product or building companies or any other topic that kind of resonates with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Hoda. We posted the website Products That Count below, so it's going to be part of this video. I want to thank everyone who joined into the show. Let me also mention, 1 second, let me just mention Tech Behind FinTech as well. If you could visit Tech Behind FinTech and subscribe so you don't miss a show, miss a beat, greatly appreciated. Trying to grow our newsletter, so we post that as well. Second. Yeah, well, there we go. So if you go to techbehindfintech.com, go to subscribe, you'll be in our loop when we start sharing insights and future shows. We are live every Friday at 12 p.m. I want to thank Hoda for today's episode. Loved it. Really, really good insights in terms of her experience and what she's doing at Products That Count, and also when you come into an existing organization as a CEO. So Hoda, every time you visit, I always love our conversations. Today's no different. So thank you very much. To everyone who watched the show, whether you watched it on Instagram, and I'm waving to all my guys on Instagram, whether you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, didn't miss anything, I hope. We thank you. Thank you for the DMs, whether you watch this show today live, whether you watch it tomorrow, or whether you watch it next year. I want to thank you in advance to show gratitude for that. I really appreciate it. And on that note, I wish everyone a spectacular weekend. And we will catch you. So what do they say? Next, same time, same back channel next week.
That's about it. Thanks for having me. It was great. I enjoyed the conversation.
And me too. Thank you. Cheers.
Bye, everyone.
Understanding the technology that powers the money is essential. Knowing the business drivers that inspire how the money is made is crucial. Bridging the gap between the mind of the technologist and the mind of the business is monumental. That is what TBF is all about. Let's start this never-ending conversation. It's time.